So now we're ready to sew these 7-inch squares on the sewing machine. I like to start with a new needle on every project. I like to put in what I call a leader, which is just a scrap of fabric, and I also have a follower at the end. I put down my pressure foot. I'm just using an all-purpose foot, but if you have a walking foot, this would be a great time to use that. My stitch length, I can use a regular stitch length, or actually I like to make my stitch length a little bit larger, kind of like a top stitching stitch length. That's going to vary on your machine. So now I'm ready to sew. I start sewing on this leader, and the reason why I do that, it makes it a little bit easier for me to get this in my machine. Sometimes when I start on the edge of this, it gets scrunched up, and so this helps me to pull that through, but this time I didn't have any problem. So I just continue to sew on the line. Now if you saw the hand sewing section of this series of videos, you'll notice that I started sewing a thumb's length away. So I started a thumb's length away. When you're machine stitching, you don't need to do that because your stitches won't come out if they're cut. So I'm coming to the end here, and what I'm going to do is pick up my next block that I'm going to sew. I'm going to line it right up, and I'm just going to keep sewing. Do you notice how that just took it right in? If I have problems though, I've got this other piece back here that I can use to help pull it along. I'm going to just continue sewing down this line. Notice where my pins are. I've avoided having to pull these out because I did not put them where the line is. I'm going to sew all the way to the end here, and let me clip this one off in the back. Let's clip this off, and just so you can see what a finished one looks like. Once again, I'm going to chain piece this. That's when I just push it right up alongside of this. I'm going to sew on the line. Now sometimes when you're sewing on that line and you get to this intersection here, it wants to put like a little tuck in it. So when you're getting close to that, you might want to put your needle down, and you might want to adjust some of that fabric. I don't think I'm going to have a problem here, but that's just in case you have a problem, so you know what to do. Now I'm finishing off here. Sometimes these get misaligned, so I want to pull it over just a little. This quilt is very forgiving, so if you're off a little, that's okay. And before I finish sewing, I like to put my follower in here. And I'm just going to clip that off and clip this one. So now I have completed sewing one of these squares with an X.